Let's listen to Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes, Level A2, Oxford Reading University.
Part 1.
In the 16th century, a gentleman lived in a quiet village of La Mancha. He was around 50 years old. The man had one special interest. He read a lot of chivalry books. Those books were full of knights, powerful magicians, beautiful ladies, and amazing adventures. He read all the books he could find, night and day. Finally, he couldn't think about anything else. He didn't take care of his house. Over time, he lost almost all his money. Soon, he became completely mad. One evening, he stood up and cried, "Dear God, I know what I have to do now. I will become a knight. I will travel to many places and help everyone. I will bring back the golden age of chivalry." The gentleman took out his old armor and cleaned it. However, he couldn't find his helmet, so he made a helmet out of cardboard. Then he looked at his old tired horse. "I name you Rocinante. You are the strongest and bravest horse," he said proudly. Finally, he realized one more thing. Every true knight was inspired by a beautiful, noble lady. So he needed to find a beautiful lady too. Then he remembered a pretty girl from a nearby farm. "I will call her Dulcinea del Toboso," he decided. "In her name I will destroy all the evil in this world." He also made up a new name for himself. From that day on, he was Don Quixote de la Mancha. 2. Don Quixote got onto Rocinante and went on his first adventure. Soon he saw a small inn. However, in his mind it was a big castle. 2 prostitutes stood at the door. Don Quixote saw them as princesses. He made a deep bow. "Oh, beautiful princesses, I am a knight, and I am very tired. May I rest in your palace?" The women laughed, but played along. They helped him down and removed his armor. Don Quixote refused to take off his cardboard helmet because it was stuck to his head. Soon, the women served him dinner. The food was plain and dry. "These dishes are delicious. Only kings can eat such food," he exclaimed. The women laughed and went away. In the middle of dinner, Don Quixote suddenly remembered something. "Oh, no, I have not yet been knighted. Good sir, please help me," he asked the innkeeper. "This man is completely mad, but it will be fun, so I'll play along," the innkeeper thought. "Of course," he replied with a smile. "I will help you." The innkeeper made a fake ceremony for him. "Stand up, brave knight," he said, trying to hide his laughter. Don Quixote was very happy. He bowed deeply. "Thank you. I will remember your kindness forever." "I am a true knight now," he thought proudly. "You have to pay for the room and the food," the innkeeper said. Don Quixote spread his hands. "Money? A knight does not carry any money. His honor is his gold." The innkeeper's smile disappeared. "Well, in this inn, even knights must pay. Remember this, always carry money in your purse. You will always need to buy food." Don Quixote promised to be better prepared. He rode away before dawn. 3. Don Quixote returned home for fresh clothes and some money. Suddenly he heard someone cry. He saw a boy tied to a tree. A farmer was beating him with a stick. "Stop, evil knight!" Don Quixote shouted. "Do not touch that boy." "He is my servant. He works really poorly," the farmer explained. "It is not true. He hasn't paid me for months," the boy cried. Don Quixote raised his spear. "Pay him right now. If you don't, you will answer to me in battle," he ordered. The farmer got really scared. "Yes, brave knight, I will pay him now," he promised in a shaking voice. Don Quixote nodded proudly. "See, justice is done," he said to the boy, and went away. But as soon as he was gone, the farmer beat the boy even worse. Don Quixote reached his house. There were 4 people there. 2 of them were his friends, the barber and the priest. There were also 2 women, Don Quixote's niece and his housekeeper. They were talking about Don Quixote's chivalry books. Everyone was sure that those books made Don Quixote mad. When he entered, his niece and the housekeeper rushed to the door. "Uncle, you are hurt again," the young woman cried. "Enough adventures for today, my friend. You must rest," the priest said softly. They gave him food and listened to his crazy stories. Finally, they sent him to bed. The next morning, the priest and the barber entered Don Quixote's library. There were many books about knights, magic, and adventures. "Burn them all. He has lost his mind because of these books," said the housekeeper. "Yes, we must burn them. If we leave the books, he will read them again. Even if he stops being a knight, he will become a poet, and this is even worse," added Don Quixote's niece. And so, they burned all the books. Then they built a wall to hide the entrance to the library. 4. Soon Don Quixote woke up. He rushed to the library and noticed that the room was gone. The priest and the barber called him to the living room. "My friends," he cried, "do you know what has happened? The evil magician has attacked me. He has stolen my library and all my precious books." "Yes," the priest agreed. "The magician came last night. He destroyed your library." "That villain!" Don Quixote shouted, raising his hands. "I knew it was him. He is my enemy." Don Quixote started to plan the attack on the evil magician. Soon he realized something. "I need an assistant. Someone has to help me in the battles." So Don Quixote called Sancho Panza, a poor farmer from the village. "Sancho," he said with passion, "come with me as my companion. If you help me, I will make you the governor of an island. You and your family will live there and rule with honor." Sancho scratched his head. "An island? Do you really mean it?" he asked. "Of course," Don Quixote promised. Leave your wife and your children for a while. Follow me. Together, we will do great things." Sancho was really interested. He thought for a moment, then smiled. "Well, why not? I will join you and return as a rich and powerful man." So the two men left the village, talking about great adventures and battles. 5. Don Quixote and Sancho spent a day riding. In the distance they noticed several tall windmills. Don Quixote stopped, his eyes shining. "Sancho, my friend," he said, raising his spear, "do you see those giants over there? Their huge arms are so dangerous. Nobody is safe because of them. As a knight, I must kill them." Sancho looked at the windmills and shook his head. "Giants? Master, those are not giants. They are windmills. They are not dangerous at all." But Don Quixote didn't listen. He rushed Rocinante forward, shouting, "Do not run away, cowards! Don Quixote de la Mancha is coming to fight you." He took his spear and attacked the windmills. The spear hit the wood and broke. With a loud cry, Don Quixote and Rocinante fell to the ground. Sancho ran to his master. "Did I not tell you? They are windmills, not giants." "Sancho, you don't understand," Don Quixote said in a sad voice. "The evil magician did this. He has turned giants into windmills at the last moment. He wanted me to get hurt." Sancho sighed and helped his master get back on the horse. Soon they continued their journey. 6. The next day, Don Quixote and Sancho saw a carriage. A beautiful lady was sitting inside. 2 monks and their servants were walking next to it. Don Quixote thought the lady was a kidnapped princess. He attacked the monks, ignoring Sancho's protests. During the fight, Don Quixote's ear was injured. One of the monks fell from his mule. Sancho tried to take his robe as a symbol of victory, but the monk's servants beat him badly and left. After the fight, Sancho got worried. He looked at Don Quixote. His ear was still bleeding. "Master, let me clean that wound before it gets worse," Sancho said. "No need, Sancho," Don Quixote replied. "I know of a medicine that can help. The balm of Fierbras. It is very powerful. With just 1 drop, any wound will heal." "Then why don't we make bottles of it and sell them?" Sancho suggested. "We can be rich in no time." Don Quixote shook his head. "Money is not the goal of a real knight. Honor is the goal." Then he saw his ruined helmet. "Until I have a new helmet, I promise to live strictly by the law of honor. I will win great battles and prove that I am a real knight," he decided. That night, they lay down under the open sky. Don Quixote looked at the stars with joy. "Sancho, nothing is better than sleeping under the stars." Sancho covered himself with a cloak. "Nothing is worse, master. I would rather have a bed and a blanket." Don Quixote smiled, lost in his dreams. Meanwhile, poor Sancho tried to fall asleep. 7. The next day, Don Quixote and Sancho joined a group of travelers. They all ate bread and cheese, drank wine, and sang songs. Sancho was having a lot of fun. Suddenly, Don Quixote got very serious. He stood up to speak. "In the Golden Age," he began, "all men lived in peace. There was justice. Women could travel by themselves without fear. There was no need for battles. But then, everything changed. Evil people started to do bad things. So, knights were born. Today, knights help and save others. We protect the weak. We save women and fight for honor. Without knights, the world will fall into darkness. This is why I travel and risk my life. I do not need a reward. It is my duty." Don Quixote's speech was truly amazing. Everyone looked at him in surprise. "I prefer bread and wine as a reward," Sancho thought, and fell asleep. Don Quixote continued his speech. "I wear my armor because I am a knight. I have to be ready for battles at all times. A knight's life is not made for comfort or rest. For example, monks always pray. Just like them, knights are always ready to fight. But a knight's life is more difficult," Don Quixote said proudly. "A monk prays in peace, but a knight risks his life all the time. We always fight giants and evil magicians." The travelers listened to the man quietly. "A knight fights better when he loves someone," Don Quixote added. "Every knight is in love, even if he hides it. As for me, I serve Dulcinea del Toboso. She is the most beautiful lady in the world. My love for her helps me in every battle." As night fell, a shepherd joined the group. He sang a soft song about love. His voice was sad, but beautiful. When the song ended, the shepherd stepped forward to help Don Quixote. He gently put medicine on Don Quixote's ear. The bleeding finally stopped. 8. Don Quixote and Sancho continued their journey. As the men traveled further, they noticed something in the distance. Don Quixote looked at the field in front of him. "Sancho, look! 2 great armies are starting a battle," Don Quixote said. "Those are just sheep, master, nothing more," Sancho replied, shaking his head. But Don Quixote's imagination was already creating battle scenes. Sancho tried to bring his master back to reality. "They are sheep, master, not soldiers," he repeated. Don Quixote's eyes were filled with excitement. "Ah, Sancho, you are not a knight. You do not see what a real knight sees. Now we have to help those soldiers." With these words, Don Quixote rushed forward. He managed to kill 7 sheep before the shepherds saw him. They ran up to him and beat the poor knight up. In the fight, Don Quixote lost some of his teeth. "Sancho, did you see that?" he cried. "It was my enemy, the evil magician. He turned the armies into sheep to steal my victory." "That is enough. I am tired of this, master. I am going home," Sancho said seriously. My friend, it was just a little trouble. When we win the real battle, you will become a governor. Now, let's find an inn and rest, Don Quixote suggested. Sancho thought for a moment. He didn't like the idea of a big battle. However, Don Quixote's promise seemed very attractive. Finally, he decided to continue the journey with his master. At night, Don Quixote and Sancho met a group of priests. They were carrying the body of a dead man. "Stop! Who are you?" Don Quixote asked. The priests kept silent. Don Quixote got angry and hit one of them. The man fell from his horse. Scared, the priests ran away quickly. Sancho took their bags. "Remember, this was done by Don Quixote, the Knight of the Sad Figure," Sancho shouted. Don Quixote was quite pleased with this title. "What a noble name, Sancho! Why did you choose it?" he asked. "Because you look so sad without your teeth, master," Sancho answered, trying not to laugh. "No, no. A wise man who writes my story put that thought in your mind," Don Quixote decided. Sancho didn't argue. The men sat down and had dinner in the open air.
Stay with us for part 2.
If our audiobooks are helpful, please leave a comment to support our channel. We have more great stories. Check this one out.